Welcome again to the California Horticultural Society August meeting. We meet the third Monday of the month, every month. And next month will be an in-person meeting, and we'll try to do Zoom as well. We'll go ahead and get started with the plant forum here. Thank you everybody for sharing their gardens this month. We have Judy Wong and Charlotte Mason, Sean O'Hara, Richard Starkison, Kristen Yanker Hansen, Jeff Hartner, Robbie Ridnow, and myself. So we'll see what everybody has happening in their gardens and what's going on with them. And everybody is welcome to share in future plant forums. In October, we're going to have an all plant forum presentation. That's going to be the program for October. So if you have something that's a little bit more involved, we're going to have a teaser of Jeff's project a little later, and he's going to go a little bit more in depth in October. And if anybody else has any little bit deeper stuff to go over, that they can share at that time. Sean, you are up.
So this is an odd little plant. I did bring this in a while back when we were having in-person meetings before COVID. We had just gotten back from Portugal and Spain and such. And while we were in southern Portugal, friends of ours took us to visit this garden of a very famous plantsman, John Lavranos, who the folks at the Bancroft Garden know very well. He's quite an aloe expert and stuff. He had passed away and the garden was being dismantled. The whole property was going to be leveled. So the plants were being dug out and carted away to institutions and things. And they wanted me to help identify a few things. I'm not sure I was much help. And the place was pretty decimated by then, but they said they were happy that I helped them in some way. But while we were poking around in beds where there were a lot of aloes, there were all these funny little white tubers. And I said, gee, those look like asparagus tubers. And they were confused because they only knew the spiny asparagus in that part of the world, which has beautiful fragrant flowers, but is just a thorny devil. And I said, no, I think they're asparagus, but they don't look quite like mine. And so they literally picked up some of the tubers and handed them to me and said, well, here, take them. So they followed me home, and they eventually started growing, and it does turn out to be something kind of like the little bridal veil asparagus, though the leaves are 4 times, 5 times larger, and the plant is not nearly as vigorous and weedy. And it's just this curious little thing, the way it sends up a shoot, and I just love watching how the new little branches of leaflets, or phyllodes, they're actually modified stems, form and such. And then this year it started to put on these little dainty flowers. They're really, really teeny. And some of them actually produced a couple of berries. And I thought it was going dormant, but then it's put up some new shoots. So it seems to be undecided about what season it's going to grow in and things. Not much information that I can find on the internet about it. It's noted in wild populations in South Africa, where it's from, but in various places, the Western Cape, the Eastern Cape. So I suspect it's kind of ready to go whenever rain appears. And it's sort of a, opportunist. So it's interesting. I love it. My wife says I'm weird for loving such a strange, curious little thing, but
so
anyway.
Sean,
Yes.
Sean, I have this in my garden, and I didn't know where it came from. You never brought it to Cal Hort or anything, right?
I brought a little potted plant in, but I didn't, no propagations or anything. It looks very much like the bridal veil, but
right. No, mine gets huge. The stem gets up, tries to get up into my lemon tree, and I don't remember planting it, but I think it's up all the time, and that's here where we get frost. And it hasn't multiplied up for me at all. It's in a lot of deep shade, though. I've never seen a flower on it, but I do know it's an asparagus. I didn't know it was ovatus. But
Well,
it's
might be a
interesting. I don't
slightly
know where
different
mine
one.
came from.
Well, I'd love to see a picture of it. I'm really interested in all these asparagus-like plants. And
Okay.
so, yeah.
Well, I have it in the ground, and you know me, I'm as abusive as they get. So
Yeah, it may be something similar. I'd really like to know more about
I'll
it.
send you,
Um,
I'll post a
I
picture.
can't find any evidence that anybody other than John Lavranos was growing this little guy. It's not listed in any way, shape, or form. It was very hard to find information. So
I'll post it on the Cal Hort website.
great.
Are the
Excellent.
flowers coming out of the nodes? Or you said those were
They're
leaves or they're
phyllodes.
stems rather than leaves?
Yeah, they kind of come out almost like an axil, at the base of some of the leaves, and
Oh, so it's not mid-leaf.
and the
or
stem.
mid-leaf like.
No, it's not midleaf like a ruscus or
Tilia.
something.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And they're just a few little dainty pendant flowers. The ones I see in the pictures of wild plants have more flowers. It does seem to take a lot of heat and dry. So I've been trying to give it a little bit more of that in our new place. So I'm, it's just curious.
Fragrant at all?
I can't detect any fragrance.
Okay.
So, and yeah, but those flowers are very teeny. So
Sean, I'm just wondering how you were able to find out the identification of that plant. What was your procedure? Where did you go?
I'm sort of obsessive compulsive. I think that's the main procedure that I have. I just never let it die. I just have to find out. And I worked with a bunch of librarians, so I'm really good at searching things. And I have a few favorite places. And it took me months. It literally did. And I just sort of accidentally stumbled onto a thread that ultimately led me to the identity. So the Drimia maritima, that's people often know as Erginia, and it's sometimes known as Scilla as well. It's a very common native Mediterranean plant. There's apparently botanists are splitting them into various species from different parts of the Mediterranean. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what part of the Mediterranean these came from, because they came to me from San Jose when I was the chair of the Mediterranean Garden Society. Somebody in San Jose found out about us and had a bunch of these and wanted to get rid of them, but he didn't want to just throw them away. So some of our members went down and got them. And I didn't see the original planting. I was busy working at the time, but I believe it was around 2002, 2003. And I was surprised at how many came to me. I was trying to figure out what to do with them, and they were dormant out of the ground. And suddenly they started to bloom, even though they weren't planted. And that's inspired the humorous picture with my wife and kids there, which, yeah, we were all very surprised at how quickly they bloomed and things like that. So we've been growing them ever since. They produce a very nice, handsome set of leaves, sort of vase-shaped grouping of leaves over the winter, and then they go dormant completely. And the bulbs are about the size of a baby's head or a small ball. And they're very curious in that they don't produce baby bulbs. They don't produce bulblets. At some point, any particular bulb decides to split into two, and it basically becomes two bulbs of the same size. And that's why when we travel through the Mediterranean and see them growing wild, you always see this big clump of bulbs that are all the same size. There's no baby ones, I've never had seed from my plants. I suspect they really need a different clone to produce seed, because I've seen plants in the wild producing copious amounts of seed. So I've often wondered about trying to get another clone of this, but who knows? What you find here in California, they might mostly all be the same plant. I really don't know, but it's an interesting plant for our Mediterranean climate. And as I was saying to people at the beginning, when some of you were still coming along, I had put this pot around the corner of the house to be out of the way while it was dormant. And it was just on Friday, I think, I happened to go around there to get something and noticed it was sending up these shoots. So it was a very pleasant surprise.
Okay, the queen.
Yes, Queen Josephine. Yes, this is a Brunsvigia that I was given by Wayne Roderick many years ago, probably 20 years ago or so. And I've been growing it. It's been growing in a pot quietly in a corner of the garden, and I knew it took a long time to flower. So I never, I wasn't impatient about it. I figured it would flower eventually. Recently, Ken Blackford made a big deal about how they really aren't going to bloom unless they're planted in the ground, that they need a wider root run. And so I was actually making plans to plant this one on the hillside you see kind of behind it in our new place. But that was going to happen this fall. And when I happened to go around and see the Drimia in bloom, I was totally shocked to see this flower coming up on the Brunsvigia. This is the first time it's ever flowered. I was so mesmerized. Deborah was joking that she wanted to get a picture of me sitting in a chair staring at the bulb for the last couple of days.
It almost looks like it's giving birth feet first.
Yes, it does. And I've tried to count all the little flowers coming up. Some of them are quite short still. There's about 20 of them. And they're expanding very quickly. They're now even longer than this one, the one on the right. It's all happening very quickly.
You'll have to show the once it's open on the October meeting. Definitely.
Sure. I'll take pictures, no doubt. So this is very exciting. And we've noticed the hummingbirds hanging around in anticipation, apparently, of all these flowers coming into bloom. So.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Sean.
Sure.
Kristen, we've got about 7 minutes until we have to break.
Okay, so this is one of the hybrids from Mark Dimmitt. He's well known in Arizona. I don't even know if he's still alive. I got this probably close to 20 years ago. And the hybrids that he created, and I don't know the details behind them, but they rebloom, and I grow them in pots because of drainage issues. I've tried growing them in the ground, and then I finally moved them into pots, and they perform much better there for me. And this would be monsoon season right now in Arizona, so I try to water them a little more, but they give me a huge spring show, and I was just surprised that I have another one coming. I had another set of blooms coming, and now I'm inspired and I'm watering the pots again because it's the monsoon season. So yeah, that's all for that. I just thought it was interesting.
Do you have more than one, different colors or different strains?
Yes. Oh, yeah, just the 3 colors I have now. And I don't know that I'll ever get more. I had to go to Bach's. I don't know if any of you came to Arizona with me back in the late 90s when we went. That was my first field trip that I provided for Cal Hort. We went to Bach's, but I had bought these when I had a car available because Dick and I used to drive down there all the time. And so I never had them sent, but Bach's I'm sure still carries them.
Oh,
And those of you who went to Bach's, it was this giant nursery. I think it's still there. I was there a few years ago again, so.
Oh, neat. Cactus are so satisfying when they bloom.
Yeah. So I have joined the Gesneriid Society, fool that I am, and I have gotten into a lot of the hardier Gesneriids and these sinnigia, these tuberous sinnigia. I used to grow tubiflora in the ground, but I don't think I water enough. And once I put it in pots, and I'm more, you know, I have saucers underneath all my pots because I water till the water gets into the saucer and then it draws it up and seems to be very successful. I just have to watch out for mosquito larvae. At any rate, this one is called Invasion Force. Yeah. And I just got this tuber from a guy that came to a Gesneriid Society meeting I think he came February. And I divided up the tubers for their plant sale, and I put one tuber in this pot, which is probably a 15-inch pot wide. And the one tuber filled this pot up that fast. It is a San Marcos plant. If anybody wants one, they have them. And both San Marcos and my observation is that they grow relatively dry. So we are limited to 3 to 4 times. Well, we are limited to watering here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so my pots, I give extra water with the hose, but I have the regular pink one. It does not perform as well. And it's right next to it, but I didn't do a comparison picture or anything. And this is just an amazing plant. And these pots do dry out, I guarantee it. There's no water in the pot. So this is the Sinnigia Invasion Force. I highly recommend it for drought tolerance. I haven't tried it in the ground yet, but I'm planning on it. Now, this is an interesting, the Gesneriid people love to grow from seed. And there's a woman named Donna Beverin, maybe some of you know her. And for some reason, I don't know why, she was at one of our meetings, and then she sent me all the seed. And I had the seed for all the Gesneriids are just so tiny, and I get so frustrated with them. And, but I decided to try them anyway. And the sinningias that are tuberous and that are cold hardy for me are very successful for me, and considering. And so this was from one that is called Banana Foster. If you go to Plant Delight's website, they have it, and I've forgotten the name of the guy who did the hybridization. It's a yellow bloomer, and Plant Delight's claims very drought tolerant. So this inspired me, because mine are not yellow, obviously, but they're not the same as some other ones that I have that have color. And I have been struggling in this one area of my garden, and I thought, well, let's see how it handles it. And we were seeing mid-80s every day, but the nights around here this year are very cold. We've had a lot of 51s. It's been really hard on growing tomatoes, but I thought I'll stick them in the ground. I watered them in, and they never blinked. And I'm just stunned, because this is on the 3-time-a-week water regimen. And it just blows my mind. And so I have this one. Did I put the other one in too? I've forgotten. Or is this the only one I gave you, Ellen?
The one earlier, and then this one was the only 2 sinningias.
Okay. So what I have others now, I'm playing around with them. At first I was going to get rid of them all, because we're doing the plant sale for the Gesneriid Society in September. But then I thought maybe I need to test them out, because, you know, you don't think of Gesneriids as being drought tolerant. And because they come mostly from parts of the world that are very, I mean, the African violet and the streptocarpuses, and then of course the calarias. I mean, they're all jungle or rainforest, or, you know, caves. In China, they grow in caves that are damp. And here's one that is a tough plant, and something that might be considered for future cultivation in the California Mediterranean climate. And it likes full sun. It's amazing.
Wow.
And I don't think deer eat Gesneriids, at least so far.
Okay, Judy.
I was down in Southern California over Christmas, and I'd never been to Nuccio's, so I decided to go to Nuccio's nursery. And we were looking at some of the interesting plants he had, and he says, "Have you seen this one before?" And he says it's known as Camellia azalea. And he says, I know that nomenclature wise, that is incorrect. You can't use a genus name for a species. But he says this is very unusual. This was discovered in 1984, and it's a graft you can see on the right there. But it is a camellia that blooms in the summertime, and actually in a warmer climate like Southern California, probably will bloom year round. But mine just started, I bought it in December. It had buds and it did bloom a little bit, but then it started setting more buds. And just in the last week or two, it started opening up all these flowers. So I thought I'd share it. It is an unusual camellia and it blooms in the summertime, which is pretty cool.
The flowers are gorgeous, but I like the foliage too, with that nice rounded edged base or.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it-
it stays, it's evergreen. So you see that all year, and I'm hoping it'll be warm enough here that I'll get blooms much of the year.
Judy, do you grow it I see you're growing it in a pot. Are you thinking of moving it into the garden?
Hopefully if it grows big enough and I can find a happy spot for it, but I wanted to kind of be able to move it around. And right now you can see there's black netting it around it because the squirrels have been digging into it. And I'm like, leave this plant alone. So I have to find a safe spot. And then also like
A deer sphere would look great around this.
oh, your
The deer sphere.
your spears. Yeah, that might work, but I'm just kind of fearful of leaving it to the elements, to the squirrels, and also it's difficult to graft. And I don't know if you can see the graft union is just below the petal right there. Actually, it's not a particularly strong graft union on this particular specimen.
We're looking at the right spot right there.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, right there. But so I am trying to kind of figure out what it needs. And I assume for anyone else that grows camellias, you don't want to cover the graft union, but you notice it has like kind of roots on the bottom half, the what do you call it? The whatever the
Scion?
scion
Well,
was, yeah. So
Union.
I don't know if I should cover that part or not. So I'm just happy that it's blooming again, and I'm going to see what it does, when I give it a full year at my house.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Any questions for
Yeah.
Judy?
Well, I have one, and from also. Last year, I wasn't taking good care of it, so it was little, just like stopped growing.
Oh,
But this year, it sent out many flower buds,
Yeah,
but
is yours
no new
blooming yet?
leaves yet. Yeah, it has some flowers now.
yeah, right now?
But just no
What do
leaves.
What do you call
And
not taking
kind of-
good care? What do you call not taking good care of it?
I think these need like really acidic soil and water. So I was just putting the strip water on it without adding any fish emulsion or sulfur or anything.
Oh,
And it turned a little bit yellowish,
Mm.
and I think I was watering too much. So
Ah.
they do like good drainage. They don't like really
Yeah.
wet soil.
I did use some acidic, kind of like rhododendron kind of soil. And I think it can be a little bit more, tolerate a little bit more drought once it's mature, but I have been watering it regularly.
Especially in a pot too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yours look really healthy and deep green. Mine is kind of yellowish green, and
Hmm.
I
How
think
much
it's getting
sun-
a little better. Yeah.
How much sun does yours get, Daxon?
I mean, it has a few hours of sunlight on it, and even like late in the afternoon. So it seems to be okay. This is quite sun tolerant, I would say.
It is more than many of the, I think, camellias. There's a vine in front of it on a trellis. So this is facing south, but it does get only partial sun because of that trellis with the vine on it.
Right. It's supposed to be from like higher elevation, but more exposed place in
Yes, it is.
subtropical region. So,
But cooler, isn't it?
I mean, it's from Guangdong province, like northern Guangdong province. So it's quite hot in the summer. but I'm not
Oh.
sure exactly how the habitats. So
Yeah, I bought one for my sister-in-law in Los Angeles too. and
quite
hers bloomed
leathery
about,
and rigid. Yeah.
yeah, hers bloomed about 2 weeks earlier than mine. So I think it's warmer down there. So we'll
Right.
see.
Do you think it can take as much sun as a Sasanqua, or is it more of a shade type?
I think a little bit less, kind of more between a Sasanqua and a Japonica. What do you think, Jackson?
Probably, yeah. Because play safe.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
so much.
Looks like you're doing fine with it.
It really is just like in the last couple of weeks, really opened up a lot of the buds. So I'm hoping it's supposed to stay in bloom all summer, usually between May and December. So I'm hoping it will.
Very cool.
Judy, I think it would be really interesting to ask them about those roots. I wonder if maybe it would be a good thing if the roots from the plant itself, could grow in
rootstock?
soil.
Yeah, I was thinking I should take a picture and send it down to Tom Nuccio and ask him, because he was helping me when we were looking at interesting plants. He said, "Have you seen this one?" So when I saw it, I went like, "I want one of those."
Yeah, well, if he gets back to you about that, that would be really interesting to share with us. I would love to know.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
because-
Okay.
October.
I find a lot of plants in pots, the roots, especially in the Malvaceae that I grow that are shrubby, they often end up having their roots exposed, and I wonder if it's because of the pot, because because it's constantly sinking down.
But why? Oh, you mean the soil is constantly sinking?
Right. Yes, and I wonder if it were in the ground, if that would change. I have no idea.
I
But
have no idea. But if I do ask him, I'll share that information with you.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Judy, Charlotte, are you still with us?
Yeah,
Hello.
I've been collecting some Eucomis, especially since I've got, I think the first one from the Golden State Bulb Company, which is no longer around, but I think they were producing them to sell to places like Trader Joe's.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Beautiful.
yeah, so this one on the left, that Aloha Leia is the one that they gave. And I've had it, I was trying to double check how long I've had it. Anyway, probably at least 10 years. And then the Freckles is a newer one. I think that a lot of them are derived from Camosa, but I think the one with all the freckles might have Vandermeer, is that right? Vandermeer in the parentage. I'm trying to find out more about them, but it's not real easy to find it so far. So if anybody else knows more about them and their the different species and cultivars.
I see here looking it up, Charlotte, that the Freckles was selected from a crossing of Eucomis Leia, which you were correct about, and Eucomis vander Merwai, and it was developed by Terra Nova Nurseries.
Yeah, I believe that one came from them, right? So they all have some kind of spots, like, either on the stem or a little bit close to the crown.
Because of the particular parent, or you're saying that for all Eucomis?
Well, the ones that I have seem to all have some spots on them. And then there's some that have kind of like lines on them too. I have another one called Dark Star, but it's just starting to come out. And my Vandermeer, the blossoms are probably an inch high, maybe so far starting there. It's a much smaller species.
Well, October would be a good time to have a comparison thing. You know what I'm saying?
if they're still blooming.
No, you take pictures. Well, you can do it.
Oh, okay, with pictures, sure.
I find that Eucomis out here actually are doing well with the drought conditions we're having. I have them in the ground.
I have some in the ground too, yeah.
Yeah, I was just very surprised because they look so juicy or something, and I thought they wouldn't do well, but they're holding up really well.
How much sun do they get?
Mine get probably 8 to 10 hours a day.
Direct sun,
Direct
10
sun.
hours.
They're
Wow.
with my hibiscus perennials, so they need a lot of water, relatively speaking, and a lot of sun. It was kind of I put them in to be a transitional, more, so the hibiscus don't bloom all the time, and I wanted more color, more transitional color, and I viewed them as a possible candidate. They're doing well. I was very surprised.
How
Yeah.
tall are yours?
Well, I have all different kinds. I just bought a big one when I was up in Washington now, and I planted it today, actually, but I've forgotten the name of it already. So I have some that are, 10 inches tall, and then I have this one that I just put in is about 2 feet tall.
I was at Digging Dog one year and in July, I guess, and she had a bed that seemed to be south facing. They were at least 4 feet high. They were huge. Does
It
anyone-
depends. I'm sure it depends on the species and cultivar, but yeah.
Okay.
Because I bought one miniature one. I hope I didn't kill it. But and that only got like 6 inches tall.
Ah,
So I think they're very diverse. I mean, I think it's a diverse, genus.
yeah. Charlotte, do you have any tall ones?
Pretty tall, yeah. Oakhurst or sparkling burgundy. I'm not sure because I think they were both kind of in the same place at one time and I moved them. And so I don't see anything really significantly different. So I'm not sure. They could
How
be
tall are they though?
My Oakhurst are about
about
2.5 feet.
maybe.
Wow.
And the blooms are maybe about halfway up now. And then I've got some other ones that don't have the dark foliage. I planted them in a bed after I took a tree out, and I also have the Scilla in there. So they kind of trade places. The Scilla grows up, and blooms early, and then this comes and fills the space up as this is going down.
Thank you, Charlotte. Richard.
I just chose this one rhododendron just because it's actually still in a pot. I just got it about 2 years ago. And it's just an example of a small rhododendron that grows well in this area.
To blooming now?
Yeah, it's blooming right now. I just took these photographs a few days ago. And the other one is called Little Marie. It's a Virrea, and it was actually hybridized by Pete Sullivan, he's a longtime deceased former gardener at Stribing. And I remember that was the first probably Virrea I ever got. This is not the same one. I killed it, of course, but this is a more recent acquisition. Anyway, they're easy to grow. The Virreas they won't flower unless they get some sun. But of course, then just like was explained about other rhododendrons, they like it. They don't like a lot of direct hot sun. So especially where I live now, it's rhododendrons are a challenge.
More so than when you were in San Francisco?
Oh yes, much more so because it's
Yeah.
so much hotter up here, and also I have to make sure they're in the shade, and I have very little shade except under the redwood, and can't put rhododendrons in the ground under the redwood, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
It looks like you have it next to a millstone.
Yeah, I don't remember. It is, but I don't know which one that is.
Oh, yeah. Good eye, Charlotte.
Oh
I
yeah,
like those too. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's some more there going on.
Okay, the reason I showed this other one on the left, which is called Nuttall Evans form, is just what I think is a very attractive nature of the opening buds. They're leaf buds. And in the springtime, or now a little bit later, the buds come, if they're not flower buds, and they open up in this way, and they're this dark red when they first come out. And of course, then the leaves become larger and greener later on. And this was hybridized by a deceased member of the Rhododendron Society here in the Bay Area.
Does it have
but
white
that was-
blooms?
What's that?
Does it have white
Yeah.
blooms?
Yes, it's the Nuttall. It has huge fragrant flowers. I don't know if there still is. There used to be one, which might still be there, right next to the, I think it was next to the library. It's thriving. It's on the path on the way in before you get there. You could see it from the flower hall where we have our meetings. It was sort of by that window. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it was quite large. It was probably 18 feet tall at that point, and it has huge white flowers. It's one of the larger flowers of the rhododendron varieties. It's about, the flower is up to 6 inches long and 4 inches across and white.
Wow. How big is the shrub?
The shrub, as I said, that one was probably over 15 feet tall. Mine is still in a pot, and it's about, it got damaged when a tree fell a couple of years ago, but it's recovered, and it's about 6 feet tall now. The only reason I brought in is there's 2 pictures of this Tithonia diversifolia. It's only gotten growing recently in the ground, and it's a shrub. I think it's called Bolivian sunflower, and I expect it to. I don't know for sure because I haven't had one that long, but I expect it to get to be about 8 or 10 feet tall. And as you can see, it has several flowers right now, and it's unusual. I think I got it at Annie's.
So neat.
Yeah, I have a question. You haven't gotten it through a winter yet.
No, I haven't. But then,
Do you get frost now where you are?
not yet.
Okay, because I never get it to winter over. I keep trying all the time, but I love the orange one. And this year I bought the yellow. Maybe it's hardier. I don't know.
Well, thanks for warning me. If it gets down to a frost, I'll cover up some of my plants. But I don't have too many plants that are really frost tender, and I suppose this one would be, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeff.
Okay, so what we're looking at is a bowl, big concrete bowl that's about 32 inches across at the top. And I had been using it as a bog garden, and then realized it had many different shortcomings. And so I moved everything out of the bog garden into a different container. And even as I was doing it, I was thinking that what I wanted was a rock garden that I would be able to give more sun to than the existing rock garden that I have out front that gets shaded by the house. And so this, I had conceptualized it as a rock garden, and then finally the opportunity came up to get some plants. And that came as a result of joining Cal Hort and going to the first in-person sale. I think it was the second sale of Ted Kipping's library and plants associated with it. That was my first bunch of plants to pick up, and they sat for a long time in their containers waiting for me to finally move everything out of this and be ready. And what you see on the right is after a long day of work of putting everything into the container. I had one of the books I got at the Ted Kipping book sale was the book called Rock Gardening by H. Lincoln Foster, which kind of feels like one of the original Bibles of rock gardening. At least it kind of reads that way. It was wonderful, and it had an illustration in it of a crevice garden, and that's what got me started. And from that point, I moved to deciding to go down to Broadmoor and pick up these big flat pieces of sandstony kind of rock, and I used the soil mixture from the book and just started placing things in. The book had warned me that that I should be prepared to put the plants in at the same time as situating the rocks, and so I had on hand about 30 plants, and then so here I've gotten everything kind of placed, and I'm ready to put plants in and pack them with the soil mixture. And this is right after finishing, so it looks pretty good here. This is another nice angle where you get the more, you can see the crevices pretty well. Crevices are about an inch or an inch and a half, sometimes 2 inches, but sometimes less than an inch. So a nice variety. Another nice angle. Once
They're
we
starting
get
to grow in.
I think this picture here shows after the last Cal Hort meeting, where I once again picked up another dozen plants and packed them in between spaces. And so I think the last time I counted, there's about 60 different things in there. And my expectation is that as I really learn what it is that I'm doing, I'm going to learn that I have made many, many mistakes, which is what happened with my first carnivorous garden, where a person who knew what he was looking at looked at it and said, well, first these are going to die, and then those other ones are going to die. So at least the one thing I did was I did research as I was putting them in and winnowed out a few that I realized were going to get quite large. And so my hope is that most of what I've kept in here will not get too large. These pictures are from just about a week and a half ago. So this is its current state. This weather that we've been having over the last, since the beginning of August, has been fantastic here in San Francisco. We went from having a very typical July, very overcast and moist and heavy dew, mist in the evenings, to being dry every day. The temperatures have been 66 to 70 and clear skies, so it's been getting good sun. This spot gets maybe 5 or 6 hours of sun per day. And this is a really well-draining soil. I hope it's well-draining. I did, this bowl had a hole in the bottom that had a PVC insert that I think was intended to allow someone to like thread in a fountain attachment or something. So I hammered that out to make the hole bigger, and then got it up on some rocks so that it hopefully will drain as well as one would want when the December rains come. But, give it another 6 weeks, take a few more pictures, and I'll have a little more to show you in October, and maybe talk a little bit more about it. And then hopefully I'll have more specifics about what's in there, and can get some feedback from other members about what things might do well, and things that I could predictably see them as not doing well. But so far, I haven't really lost any plants. Everything that has gone in over the last 3 months has grown.
That's awesome. I think Ted would be proud and glad that you used his book. I think that is too cool.
Nice.
So did you have sand at the bottom? It looked like it was all sand at the bottom, and then you mixed soil and pumice or something.
I put some filler rocks at the very bottom, and then I did put in a layer of sand. Unfortunately, I assumed that the sand I got at Broadmoor would be agriculture, or rather horticultural sand. That's not true. So the other day I bought a bag of horticultural sand from Sloat Garden Store and realized that it was categorically different from the sand that I'd got from Broadmoor. But I don't think it's going to make too much difference. There is a layer of sand underneath the layer of the more primary layer of soil that is above it and that is in between the rocks. So even if the sand is not ideal, it's yes, there is an inch or so layer of sand underneath everything. And it's a very shallow bowl, relatively speaking. So the depth is not great.
And then what did you find the difference between the two sands?
The Broadmoor sand is very much like sandbox sand, not that much different from beach sand, and the horticultural sand that I bought a 5-pound bag of at Sloat is very rough, very granular, and it's like the difference between buying regular sugar and buying like chunky sugar. And so, so I've started using it for other things, but it's too late to go back on this. That's for
Too
sure.
late to turn back. They look like they're doing well, so.
We used to call horticultural sand sharp sand.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I was always told never use builder's sand because it just is a whole different kind of sand.
Yeah. Live and learn.
Yeah.
Jeff, how come you put rocks in? You said you put some filler rocks in also at the bottom?
Just down at the bottom, I did that in part to encourage a little more drainage, because all of this drains down to just a 1-inch hole at the bottom. I'm a little concerned about whether or not that's going to get a little bit clogged up. So that was part of it, was just kind of, I also wasn't sure if I had enough soil in hand when I began the project. So for all of how much I keep saying that this isn't a very deep bowl, it still takes up a lot of material to fill it up. And so I did put some chunky rocks down at the bottom, and that just seemed like a good idea at the time.
I think that turned out awesome. Any other questions for Jeff?
I had experience with a plant in a container, which is nothing like what you're doing here, but eventually the roots actually completely closed up the drainage holes, so.
I have that happen all the time. I worked with a woman at Embarcadero, and what they did, they had huge pots. She did all the, I don't remember if Cal Hort was involved in that project, but at any rate, she did all the giant pots all over the Embarcadero where you walk upstairs. And she taught me that you turn the pot over and you take a screwdriver and you start jamming it up the hole, and it improves the drainage right away. That's how they managed it.
How do they get under the hole of a big fat pot though?
Well, they had staff first of all, and then
So they turn on its side?
Yeah.
I wonder if you use those, that cloth that they make those smart pots out of that supposedly stop the roots. If you use that as like a liner at the bottom of the pot, it would keep the roots from going through.
It is going through, it clogs the hole.
I'm sorry?
It clogs the hole. The roots just convert the hole and clog it up, and you don't even see anything coming out. You just see water accumulating in your pot.
Right, I've had that happen too, but I'm just wondering if that, those smart pots are supposedly have something that makes the roots stop. And if
maybe
not over the hole, I mean, it should drain, but it should stop the root from trying to grow through the hole.
I started using dryer sheets in the bottom of my pots. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but it should keep the roots from going through the bottom, keeps the soil in.
Where'd you get that idea from?
I just thought of it.
Because dryer sheets are really good for keeping bugs out of your greenhouse, especially whitefly.
How so?
I don't know, but they do. I mean, you
The
hang them
fragrance?
up if you have a fly problem. They don't like those bounce dryer sheets.
Oh, that's interesting. I only buy unscented dryer sheets. So.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if the unscenteds work because I don't really have whitefly anymore either. But
Okay, is Robbie still with us?
Yeah, I kind of like this begonia because it had the 2 different colors of blooms on it when I got it a few years back. I'm growing it on an upper deck. It gets about maybe an hour of early morning sun. And it just, very easy maintenance begonia. I think I water it maybe once a week is about it.
Yeah, I have the regular boliviensis, and I didn't realize there was this Mistral selection or hybridization or whatever series anyway, has the yellow and the coral too, which is kind of neat.
I even have a white one.
Oh, do you?
Oh, nice.
Well, I might have lost the white one. I have to go look. But yeah, I had them all one time lined up underneath the overhang. It was all very beautiful.
Oh, neat. I didn't realize it came in the lighter colors. I mean, that red is vibrant, but nice to have the other colors, the softer colors.
Right.
Nice to have the variety. Anything else you want to say about this one?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I like the blue, cool color. They do well up here, of course, so far anyway. If it gets much warmer, I don't know, things might change a bit, but
Are you guys getting
Um,
much rain up there?
it was here when we bought the house, so
Oh.
they're pretty well established. The rhodos and the hydrangeas. I think it's probably about 5 foot tall, 4 foot wide,
Oh, pretty.
and I don't do anything to it. Water once a week.
Very lush and cool looking.
Oh, yes, of course. I had to have a rose put in. I love the rugosas. They're easy maintenance. They're drought tolerant. They don't get diseases. They have beautiful paper mache blooms. And then you get those wonderful hips. That hip is currently on the bush right now, along with the blooms.
I was wondering about that. Oh, neat. Cool with the
And
bottom
some of
part
the
of
hip, some of the hips can be a yellow or a lighter orange, deeper orange. And they hang on for months, well into the winter.
Nice.
Um,
And is it, I think you said it was deciduous, did you?
Yes,
Yeah.
uh-huh. Very thorny, those. You don't want them by your walkway.
Good point.
And then, of course, the tiger lily. I mean, I just love those. I thought they were Turk's cap, but now I think not. I think it's the Lilium, what is it, Lanthifolium, an Asian species. So, but I just love the curved petals, and I don't do anything special to them. I don't fertilize them. I just let them go.
Gorgeous.
And the
with that
Casa,
blue
pardon?
background on them.
mm-hmm. And the Casablanca, I'm growing in a big pot on the patio, and I just love the scent. Oh my goodness. It just permeates the whole patio area, and it's in hot afternoon sun, so you can really take it.
Oh, thank you. And this is me. I think I've shown this before, this Lessingia filaginifolia silver carpet. I just love this plant. It doesn't get hard. I mean, I don't water out there maybe once a month, maybe. And it just it's showing all these little lavender flowers, and just I smile every time I see it. It was a Santa Barbara Botanic Garden selection, and Carol Bornstein evidently had selected it from Bluffs in Monterey, introducing it. And I think it goes by a couple different names. There's a couple synonyms to the Lessingia, but I know it is Lessingia. And I really like it a lot. Blooms all summer into fall. And then and I have it on a flat spot too, and so it's not, doesn't always need to be on the hanging over the rocks or whatever. And then I'm not sure if this is Pearly Everlasting. I thought it was, and then I got to looking, and I don't know if it's cudweed or not, but has a fragrant foliage. This one came up from seed, so it's the Gnaphalium likes, the Pearly Everlasting likes disturbed soils, and it's a pioneer plant in like chaparral disturbed areas, and it'll eventually weed itself out, but has the straw flower flowers, and it's been there a couple of years, and I just clip it back as it, some branches will die off or whatever. And
Ellen, have you ever smelled the flowers?
the Pearly Everlasting,
Yeah.
the foliage is so fragrant. I have not actually put my nose into the flowers. Is that different? Is it flower?
A lot of people smell it. Grows at Edgewood, and some people smell curry when they
Well, the
smell the
foliage is
flowers,
kind of like
but
that.
most people smell maple syrup.
I kind of read a little bit about that.
Yeah.
The foliage is very fragrant, so I've never really put my nose up into the, I'll report back on that one for you.
Okay.
And does that look like Pearly Everlasting to you?
Not quite. I think you're more, I think the one on the right looks more like the one that smells like curry all the time. The one I'm thinking of Pearly Everlasting, you know, the flowers before they
rounded.
open look like
Balls.
little pearls.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was hoping Bart would join us tonight, but he has been ill for several weeks, but
Oh dear. Okay, well, yeah, report back. I'm curious.
okay. I'll go stick my nose in that tomorrow. My homework.
Ellen, I just want to add something about your Lessingia.
Mhm.
Those flower buds before they open up are really interesting.
They have all the little scales or whatever over them.
But yeah, that's.
Well, here's one right here. There you can kind of see the
Yeah.
bud there.
Oh. That looks like that flower, Lefteris's favorite flower from Chile, huh?
Oh, it does look like the centranthus.
Yeah.
But you see how little buds? It's so cute. And
And
really
the
bright
leaves.
silver, huh?
The leaves are great also,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, in your close-up photo.
And tough. I mean, like I said, I don't water it. I walk over it. It's pretty dang tough.
So you haven't planted someplace else where it's just a ground cover?
Yeah, this is on the rock wall and I have a little spot more toward the driveway that it's flat and kind of interspersed between some starburst ioniums and I don't know, stuff like that. Yeah.
And you don't water it at all.
Not very, you can see how much I water it. Not very much, no. I mean, every once in a while, I'll pull the hose out when it's cool and water. But, you know, I'm hand watering. So how much of that, once it's dry, actually goes into the ground, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, but plants are known to absorb water through their leaves, so.
Well, it does get to that maybe every couple of weeks, but not very often. Highly recommended for a out of the way spot that you don't want to deal with. So cute. That's all, folks. Remember to come to next month in person, and we're going to try to do the Zoom thing for you folks that are not able to get into San Francisco. Okie doke. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Great meeting.
Night,
Thank you.
thanks. Thanks, Ellen.
Great meeting.